Who knows what CAGI, CAGI stands for? Everybody, right? Who? So the Compressed Air and Gas Institute. Of course, we're only talking about industrial gases, not natural gases. CAGI has been known to a certain degree, at least to everybody in the industry, as the voice of the industry. What we're trying to be is an unbiased, oh boy, I can't read my own writing anymore. Unbiased voice of the industry. We provide education, technical information, promotional efforts, and everything is related to compressed air and gas. So in contrast to what Chris was talking about, we're not focused on cooling towers, but we are focused on compressed air and vacuum. So unbiased. Unbiased means that this is an organization of manufacturers who all send volunteers to try to come up with something that everybody can stand behind, which is not always easy and it's not always quick, but it does work. So what are CAGI's mission and what is CAGI's objective? CAGI is mainly focused on, well, these missions and objectives. We're trying to always benefit the user. Benefiting the user starts very simply by working on standards and works all its way up to training and education. So development of standards, CAGI is involved in ISO together with our European counterparts in Europe, trying to nail down and move forward at a glacial pace these standards that govern the compressed air industry. And CAGI is also very much involved in increasing actually compressed air usage compared to other methods of driving the industry. So increasing the usage, promotion of safe air use and improvement of air quality and of course efficiency. And that's, I guess, the main focus that we're going to be talking about today. We also collect and distribute information among the members, and we focus on education and research. There'll be some breakout session speakers talking about that specifically later on today. And for a long time, but right now it's a very hot topic, we cooperate with government agencies such as the Department of Energy, Gesundheit, the EPA, and state regulatory authorities on their efforts to regulate the compressed air industry. Not because we don't want them to regulate it, but because we want them to regulate it the right way. And that's also not easy. So there'll be another speaker talking about that. So I'm just the warm-up guy here. So talking about programs and initiatives, just talked about industry standards. I'm going to speak a moment about performance verification, e-learning, educational resources, and personnel certification programs that are on the cusp of being introduced. Don't want to bore you to death, but these are the main standards that govern compressed air around the world. ISO 1217, 7183, you guys all know this, I suppose. So CAGI is directly engaged in hammering out the standards for the future. How do you test compressors? How do you test air quality? How do you test vacuum pumps? We're involved in all of this in order to make sure that these standards are not written by people who live in academia or in theory, but are also applicable to the real world. It might not always seem like that, but they are applicable to the real world. Again, I can't overemphasize the fact that if you don't see movement in these standards, it's not because nothing's happening. It's because, standards take time. From the CAGI side and from Europe, these are all volunteers from manufacturers who are dedicating some of their time to this effort, so nothing moves fast in this world. I promised to speak briefly about performance verification, and I'm very proud to speak about this because this is globally a unique program. At CAGI, we realized that there has been, let's say, a lot of liberties taken in the past with performance claims made on glossy brochures and communicated to I don't want to say gullible, but let's say customers who are easily impressed with glossy brochures. So about 10 years ago, we decided this has to stop. We have to become more transparent in our industry. We have to become more believable to the customer. So we started actually one step before performance verification, third-party verification. We started with the CAGI data sheet. So the CAGI data sheet is a standardized data sheet that all the manufacturers publish to, which makes it easy for a customer to compare apples to apples instead of apples to God knows what. So once these performance data sheets were all published, we said, all right, so now all the information is in the same format. How do we make sure that the information in that format is correct and believable and credible? So we decided to implement an independent third-party verification program where we contract with a lab that randomly selects compressors from each manufacturer and dryers every year and tests them to the appropriate ISO standard. So this program basically forced everybody to publish accurate data, because if you're not publishing accurate data that can be verified through independent verification, this becomes public knowledge. And everybody wants to avoid that. So what's the benefit for the end user? The benefit is total transparency. You now have data in your hands where you can say, all right, this compressor has this performance and this compressor has that performance. It's a good start. But as we just heard from Chris and other speakers, it's not all about the compressor anymore. That's just the starting point. It's how that plays into the system. So I may have gotten my slides out of order here, but I'll talk about them in order to not confuse myself any further. We're going to come back to the system in a second, but coming back to the topic of education, these are the educational efforts that CAGI has produced through e-learning programs that's available to everybody who comes to the CAGI site. So once you know one compressor is this efficient, one compressor is that efficient, now you have to try to understand how the whole system works together, and not only compressors impact the performance of the system, but dryers and filters and capacity controls and piping and waste and leaks and God knows what. So all these e-learning topics are there to try to help the customers become more educated about their own system. The example that's always given is that a compressed air system is kind of like your body, right? Because if you have clogged arteries, getting a bigger heart is not going to solve the problem, or an additional heart. So that's what we're trying to educate people on. Part of this education has been going on for a long time. The Compressed Air and Gas Handbook was first published in 1947, and yes, it has been repeatedly updated. Part of the information is unchanged from 1947, but most of it has been brought into the 21st century. I think it's a great resource. It's available as a hard copy, and it's probably the most accurate and comprehensive handbook on compressed air anywhere in the world, where all the information is in one place. It talks about different kinds of compressors, performance, installation, use, maintenance. All this information is there to be gotten. So you can download it or get the handbook as a hard copy. Now, what I was skipping to earlier by accident was this, the personal certification programs. CAGI's education is now taking the next step and is trying to make sure that the customers out there, when they talk to a system assessor or an auditor or a compressed air professional or specialist or whatever the name is that these people give themselves, that they actually have the skills, the training, and the education necessary to be a good resource. So we're generating tests that these candidates can take that will certify them as compressed air system professionals and assessors. I think that'll be a big step, not because very large companies like the steel company we heard about or some others that Chris was talking about, a lot of these very large companies, they have the qualification and the knowledge to select the right partner. But a lot of the companies that are one level smaller, they often don't have that, and they get convinced by people that are not really the professionals that they need. So we're trying to help this middle-sized company make an easy decision who to go to for expertise. There will also be a presentation. This is going to be a reoccurring theme. There's going to be a presentation on the details of these programs later. And actually, we're coming very close to the end, so I'm going to give you some highlights that I highly recommend you attend. There's going to be presentations on industry trends in compressed air efficiency by Brian Friedman, who's the second vice president of CAGI. He's going to talk about the latest federal and state regulations, which is, like I said, the really hot topic since DOE has ground to a standstill and some states are deciding to take matters in their own hands. He's going to talk about isentropic efficiency and some more about the performance verification program. Then followed by Dave Prater, who's the immediate past president, who I'm not sure has made it here because of the weather. It's been changed? Oh, dear God, Chad. All right, Chad Larrabee, he's the backup. I know, I'm glad you're here because I was the backup to the backup, and nobody wants to see me up here again. In any case, so you're going to talk about the performance verification program, where to find the data sheets, how to use the data sheets, and how the performance claims are being verified, right? Perfect. That'll be interesting. We'll also have a presentation by Dave Booth, who's a system assessment section member. I mean, this tells you kind of everything. CAGI has a section that only works on topics related to system assessment. He's going to talk about the quick hits or immediate tangible benefits that can be gained and that everybody can take advantage of to save energy. And saving energy is the hot topic, obviously, because energy is the hot topic. It's actually kind of funny that energy is the hot topic. I'm originally from Germany, where energy's been a hot topic for 30 years. And now please tell me why. Why has it been a hotter topic there than here? Because energy is so cheap here. Energy is twice as expensive, 3 times as expensive in other parts of the world. No wonder everybody over there is talking about saving energy. So maybe a lesson for ComEd. Prices are going up. I can feel it. Sorry, Chicagoland. All right. And finally, you're going to hear Wayne Perry, who was actually there 100 years ago when CAGI was founded. He was one of the original authors of the Compressed Air Handbook. He's the system section chair of the Compressed Air and Gas Institute. And he's going to talk about the CAGI certification programs for compressed air specialists and assessors that are going to help customers and you all make better decisions on who to hire to help you with your system. All right, so finally, in closing, I'd like to remind you that we are a totally unbiased authority on compressed air. We are the voice, and please go and visit the website. Look at the data sheets, look at all the information out there. It's a really good resource. It doesn't cover everything, but it covers the 85% that most of your customers are interested in. Thank you very much.